Risto Siilasmaa, the chairman over at Nokia, completely hit the nail on the head a while back. He said, AI is going to have as big an impact on our society as electricity. Just let that sink in for a second. Electricity literally rewired how we live, work, the whole shebang. And artificial intelligence, it is on that exact same trajectory. It's not just some sci-fi movie plot or a niche tool for tech giants anymore, right? It's the new current running through absolutely everything we do in our modern world. But honestly, there is a massive elephant in the room when we talk about AI adoption. Sure, we talk about it constantly, but does the general public actually know how it works? For most people, AI is basically treated like magic. It's this invisible, super intimidating force that curates your social feeds, writes code out of thin air, and completely shifts job markets. And while people who follow tech might get the basic mechanics, for the vast majority of society, the actual nuts and bolts are completely locked away behind these incredibly heavy, complex mathematical doors. Well, in this explainer, we are diving into demystifying AI, Finland's grand experiment. We're going to explore exactly how one incredibly ambitious nation decided to tackle global AI illiteracy head-on, basically by just handing the keys directly to the public. So the origin story of this whole thing is absolutely fascinating. Back in the spring of 2018, an online learning company called MinnaLearn teamed up with the University of Helsinki, which, by the way, is Finland's oldest and largest academic institution. Their shared goal was pretty simple: empower everyday people, instead of letting them feel terrified by the crazy pace of AI advancement. Then, during the Finnish presidency of the EU, they made this brilliant, totally out-of-the-box decision. Instead of handing out the usual, boring political trinkets like branded pens or notebooks at these global summits, they offered an intangible gift. They actually provided this AI course, fully translated into all EU languages. From there, the plan was just to spend the next few years gradually building up the number of people taught globally. But before it went global, it started with a highly specific, very focused target: 1%. Yep, just 1%. That was Finland's initial goal. They wanted to train exactly 1% of their entire country's population in the absolute basics of artificial intelligence. As Politico actually noted in their coverage, the idea has a simple Nordic ring to it. And it really does. It's just so incredibly pragmatic. You see, 1% of Finland's population is about 55,000 people. So it wasn't some vague, lofty promise to generally improve tech literacy. No, it was a highly measurable, human-focused goal: get 55,000 everyday citizens to actually understand the core concepts at the root of AI, and then, just build from there. Now, it's one thing for a government to launch a public program, right? But when the CEO of Google calls it a global template, you instantly realize the sheer magnitude of what they've built. Sundar Pichai explicitly said he was very impressed by Finland's focus on AI and that he wished it was a template other countries could use. When top-tier tech leadership is pointing to a public education experiment as the absolute gold standard, wow, we're looking at something profoundly impactful. And the core philosophy driving this whole template is delightfully straightforward: demystify AI. The creators of the course, which is known as the Elements of AI, realized that if they wanted to empower the broadest possible group of people, they had to completely strip away the gatekeeping. They needed to show everyday folks what AI actually is, what can genuinely be done with it, and crucially, maybe most importantly, what it cannot do. To make this universally accessible, they split the learning into two really distinct parts. Part 1 is the introduction to AI. Now, this is for everyone. It requires absolutely zero complicated math and zero programming. You literally just learn how AI affects our lives and what's possible. Easy, right? Then, for those who want to dig a bit deeper, Part 2 is building AI. This is where you actually roll up your sleeves, learn the algorithms, and where some basic Python programming skills are recommended. They effectively built this beautiful bridge that accommodates both the absolute beginner and the aspiring developer. But I gotta say, the real genius here, and a huge takeaway for anyone looking at operationalizing AI, is how they structured this for the modern workforce. They developed an incredibly efficient corporate upskilling path. Basically, employees take this Get AI Ready training in just 60 minutes. But what makes this an absolute game changer for businesses is that this training maps directly to the EU AI Act, so you're ensuring baseline compliance and responsible use right out of the gate. Participants earn a certificate proving they're ready for safe, confident, everyday AI adoption. It literally turns workplace curiosity into compliant capability in an hour. 1 hour. Okay, so remember that initial goal of reaching 1% of Finland, about 55,000 people? Well, the explosive scale of what actually happened is just staggering. 2 million. Over 2 million students have now signed up for the Elements of AI course. What started as this neat little Nordic experiment completely transformed into an absolute global phenomenon. And that global reach, it isn't just a handful of neighboring countries. Those 2 million students actually come from over 170 different countries around the world. It evolved from a local initiative into a truly borderless educational movement, spreading high-quality university knowledge across the entire globe. But here's what's truly unprecedented: the demographic breakdown. Women account for 40% of the participants. Honestly, in the tech world, that is a phenomenal statistic. It is actually more than double the average female participation rate for traditional computer science courses. It just goes to show that when you remove those intimidating barriers to entry and focus strictly on demystification, you attract a vastly more diverse audience. Finland's Minister for Foreign Affairs, Elina Valtonen, really emphasized why this diversity matters so much. For AI to actually be successful, we can't just develop it in a vacuum, right? We have to find diverse, practical ways to use it. As she pointed out, it's not just up to the engineers. That's exactly why making the course free for anyone is so brilliant. Because if AI is going to act like electricity and touch literally every part of our society, we desperately need artists, teachers, and business owners deeply understanding it, not just coders in Silicon Valley. And we see this impact directly in the graduates themselves. Take Danielle Kaufman, for example. She's an artist and a teacher. She noted that one of the most valuable aspects of the course was the strong community involvement. Think about that. Here is a non-technical, creative professional who didn't just passively click through a slideshow. She tapped into an active, engaging community to help ground these complex concepts in her own reality. Now contrast the artist's experience with Suman Kunwar, who is an app developer working in climate and sustainability. Even with his highly technical background, Suman said his biggest takeaways were understanding AI's ethical risks, its societal impact, and how to design better systems. So the curriculum isn't just about how to build the tech, it provides this crucial foundational grounding that even experienced tech professionals find incredibly valuable. We also see deep validation from the education sector itself. François Paben, a primary teacher in a French public school, highlighted the profound power of e-learning. Free, high-quality open university courses like this, they totally democratize the highest level of education. It makes the platform incredibly powerful for sharing knowledge, skills, and values across entire populations. But honestly, perhaps the most telling testimonial comes from an experimental high-energy physicist, Kunal Garg. He admitted that the biggest thing he learned was that the terminology in AI is scarier than the core concepts. I mean, think about that for a second. Even a physicist found the AI landscape intimidating. But once you pull back the curtain, once you get past all the jargon and the buzzwords, the actual core concepts are accessible to everyone. The fear is entirely in the vocabulary, not the reality. Which really brings us to the broader implications of this grand experiment. We've seen how a highly targeted Nordic initiative just exploded into a global movement of 2 million people. We've seen artists, teachers, developers, and physicists alike step through that door to conquer the intimidation factor. AI is the new electricity, and it is undeniably going to power the next chapter of human history. So the question isn't just whether we understand it, it's whether you are ready to demystify the elements of AI for yourself and help build the bridges necessary so the rest of the world can understand it too.